On a weekend every year they hold a very popular contest. It draws people from far and wide to decide and show everyone who's the best. They are radio hams who commonly hold a vigorous fascination for taking their gear into the great outdoors to set up a portable station. The event is named after a well-known chap to promote radio amongst rock and soil. They all come together with mic in hand to compete in the annual John Moyle. The aim is to make as many contacts as you can and score points for every one. Then tally them up at the end of the day to show who's second to none. One expert ham, his name was Joe, took part each year without fail. He would prep his gear and make his plan, and toward his sight set sail. He'd pack his boot with all sorts of gear, his radios, antennas and cable, an esky, a hat and sunscreen as well as a camping chair and a table. And when he arrived at his chosen site, he began to put it all in its place. He strung up his dipole and connected the power. It brought a large grin to his face. The radios lit up and crackled to life. It sounded just perfect to him. He adjusted his tuner and checked out the bands. There were signals already coming in. The first hour passed, a fast pace was set, with 30 contacts already made. Joe talked so much he was as dry as a bone, so he reached for a chilled lemonade. The pace continued hour after hour. He made contacts all over VK. He just knew he would amass a swag of points before the end of the day. CQ John Moyle, Joe repeatedly called and waited for a confirming reply, which came, "I've got you, 5 and 9. Joe felt he could just about fly. And on the afternoon went. Things were looking exceptionally great. But just as it seemed that none could go wrong, poor old Joe met his contest day fate. A white cockatoo that had been watching nearby had eyed off his strung wire and ballon. That sneaky old bird was biding his time. He was sharp and he was cunning. He waited till Joe had taken a break to cook some snags on the fire, and just then swooped down and took his place perched upon the wire. He pecked and chewed on the wire and cable. Bits of plastic were strewn all around. That crazy bird did not hold back. He really went to town. By the time Joe returned to take his seat at his portable radio station, he looked up and saw that vandalous bird and exclaimed in consternation, "What the hell?" But instead of going off his head, he quietly hatched an ingenious plan. He would teach that bird a real good lesson. Don't ever mess with a contesting man. Joe reached for the dials and chose a clear space, then cranked up his linear to 11. He hissed, "You blessed bird, before I'm done, you'll be an inch away from heaven." Joe hit transmit, and all of a sudden there was a buzzing sizzle and spark. That cocky didn't know what hit him, and he let out a ginormous squawk. 500 watts had gone up the stick and given that bird a great shock. There was smoke and the smell of roasting fowl. That cocky wished he'd stayed with the flock. He shot off that wire like a bullet from a gun, in a shower of feathers and crap. I'm sure that bird won't forget that day. Joe yelled, "And don't come back!" Joe looked and assessed the damage done and tried to make everything good. He was hoping to make it all workable, to complete the contest best as he could. But it wasn't quite right and there was no receive. He tweaked and fiddled and adjusted. Then one of his radios became really hot, just like a fine English mustard. For an hour he tried to get everything right and finally tested the SWR. But the reading came back astronomically high. "Stuff it," he said. "That's it. I'm packing the car." He loaded up and headed for town and felt a twinge of disappointment. But then a huge smile spread across his face, knowing that bird would surely need ointment. Yes, stupid bird. I'm sure that Joe will be back next time with a greatly improved risk plan, to make sure he does whatever it takes to finish up as the very best man. So the moral of this story is, when you contest with radio gear, make sure you plan it really well so it doesn't end up a dud year. But as for you birds who chew on wires, I have some important advice. Keep away from hams and don't mess with their gear. The results mightn't be very nice.